Unmute ourselves, hop over, cool. Which means I can min that. And we're good to go, right? Yeah, crushing it. I've lowered the latency down to ultra low. Hopefully there's no issues with the frame rate, and I can more quickly react to anything anyone is saying in chat. But let's get started, right? Let me just adjust myself a little bit. Scoot on here. So today we're building Captain America First Avenger from the Marvel Secret Lair Drop that happened, what, 2 weeks ago at this point? Something like that. But Captain America is interesting. He's Jeskai, no shock there, right? Red, white, and blue. America all the way. But he's definitely an equipment-focused deck, right? He's a 4/4 for 3, which is already good stats. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to attach up to one equipment you control to him for free, which is nice. And for 3 mana, you could throw an equipment, splitting up damage based on its mana value to up to 3 targets. So, seems cool. Let's go over what came in the Secret Lair first. Then we'll hop over to Scryfall and start the actual kind of, the building process, if you will. So we have a flawless maneuver, so as long as we have Cap out, we get to cast this bad boy for free. And it makes our boys indestructible, which we love, right? You know, Cap is definitely a big target, and the fact that he's 3 colors, you know, also makes him a little difficult to get out on budget mana curve, but I think we're going to make it happen. The Shield of War and Peace, which is just a flavorful Sword of War and Peace, is going to give us protection from red and white, which is interesting, but whenever we deal combat damage, what do we get to do? Whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, this equipment deals damage equal to the number of cards in our hand, and we're going to gain life for the cards in our hand. There we go. Reading comprehension. We did it. Captain America's Aid is just Sigarda's Aid, which is going to let us cast our equipments at flash speed, which is cool. Whenever the equipment enters, we get to auto-attach it. Also very nice. And last of the cards that are guaranteed to be in this deck is In the Trenches. I wasn't actually sure where this came from initially. I did look it up, and it's originally from Brothers War, because it didn't have like a name under it, and I was like, what is this card? But, you know, pretty decent, right? 3 mana, Universal Lord for all of our creatures. We get to exile a target non-land permanent we don't control. Activate only as a sorcery and only once. So, kind of cool, right? If they get rid of In the Trenches, their thing would come back, but I still think it's interesting tech. I'm not generally a fan of the exile this until these leaves style effects, but, you know, I think it's pretty decent here. So as always, we're going to hop over into Scryfall and just sort of look for keywords and whatnot that we think are going to synergize well. We're obviously going to look to have quite a bit of equipment, right? So we're looking for good equipment, and we're looking for things that are going to support that equipment. So let's get going. Hop over to Scryfall here. We'll do an advanced search. I think we can look for the specific equipment that we're going to add in afterwards. So we are going to start off with support. So we're looking for anything that mentions equipment that could go into a deck with a red, white, and blue commander. And it's as simple as that. We always sort by EDH rec, which isn't to say that, like, good things don't exist towards the bottom that people are just undervaluing. But I feel, you know, you go with the herd to an extent, you know what I mean? So SRAM Senior Edificer is 2 mana. Casting ores and equipments or vehicles is going to draw us cards. We're not really doing a ton of auras, we're not doing a ton of vehicles, but we are casting, ideally, a fair bit of equipment. So I think he is an obvious add. And I'd be shocked if he was expensive. Yep, 64 cents. Nice and budget for us. Cool, cool, cool. Open the Armory, I think, is also fairly cheap. So 2 mana is going to let us tutor any equipment we want. Again, it could be an aura, but we're not doing auras. We get to add it to our hand and shuffle. Tutors are good. Open the Armory, I think, is cheap because it's specific to equipments. Yeah, $1.18. Every card has to be under $10. If they're not, they don't get in. Danitha, Compassion, Paragon, 3 mana, 2/2, First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink, so pretty good. Also is going to reduce the cost of casting our auras and equipments. So Danitha feels like an obvious add. Yep, 24 cents, nice and budget. Hammer of Nazans. This is the first equipment that I guess references equipment. Yeah, so whenever it or another equipment enters the battlefield under our control, we can attach it for free. That's obviously good. Normally it would cost us 4 to equip. The fact that it's also, there goes my voice cracking a little bit, just going through second dose of puberty here. But the equipped creature also gets +2/+0 and indestructible. It's also 4 damage when we throw it, right? Which is pretty decent. And it's going to let us attach a bunch of things for free as they come in. So I think that's pretty decent. So Hammer of Nazan. Ooh, $10.20. It's slightly over the budget of $10. I'm going to let us have it. I'll give us a $20, not $20, that'd be absurd, the 20-cent buffer, and say that it's okay. You know, I bet if we got, like, a heavily played version, it would be under 10. I'm not going to do that for everything, but Hammer of Nazan feels like it's close enough in price. So I think it's okay to keep it. Pure Steel Paladin. So this is more equipment entering the battlefield, drawing us cards. We like this. Metalcraft, which we should hit pretty quickly, right? We are going to be running a lot of equipments. It's going to make it so all of our equipment is 0 to activate. So, Pure Steel, welcome to the team. Up next is Sigarda's Aid, but we already have Sigarda's Aid in the deck, just from the Secret Lair, so no need to go over it. Thran Power Suit. So Thran Power Suit would make our boy very beefy, right? 2 cost. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each aura and equipment attached to it, as well as Ward 2, both of which are good effects. I think Thran Power Suit makes a ton of sense here. If at any point it feels like I'm kind of like moving too quick, just be like, hey Max, slow it down a bit. Because I'm happy to go over thoughts in more detail, I guess is like the best way of putting it. We're going to follow that up with a Mantle of the Ancients. Now, unfortunately, Mantle of the Ancients itself is not an equipment, right? But it would get us any equipments back from Grave, as well as any extra auras, and it beefs up the creature a fair bit. So I think we are going to run the Mantle of the Ancients here, assuming it's budget. I know how to spell Ancients. There we go. 56 cents. Yeah. Easy add. We're just going to keep going down this list with the Stoneforge Mystic. When it enters, we get to tutor. And we can put an equipment from our hand onto the battlefield cheap. Stoneforge Mystic feels like another obvious add for us. But it's too expensive, so unfortunately Stoneforge Mystic has to get skipped. We'll miss you. Steel Shaper's Gift is another tutor. It does cost 1 less. Is it cheap enough? Steel Shaper's Gift is cheap enough, so we could very easily keep our Steel Shaper's Gift and not have any issues there. Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist. This is a 3 cost. At the beginning of combat, you can attach any number of auras or equipments. So again, reducing the cost, it's kind of doing what Cap's already doing, but it also lets us do it to any creature. So Arden, Intrepid Archaeologist. There we go. Hi, Grayson. Please don't make a mess. Alright, bye, Grayson. Thieving Skydiver. So whenever he enters, if it was kicked, we get to gain control of an artifact. If the artifact is an equipment, we get to steal it and attach it to the Thieving Skydiver. Thieving Skydiver is tempting. He'd be easy enough to kick, right? And at the very least, we could steal mana rocks. I think the big goal would be to steal a nice, big, juicy equipment. But obviously, not every deck is running equipments. But every deck should be running mana rocks, so I think he's still a pretty safe addition for us. And I think he's pretty budget. Yep, 15 cents, easy add. Okay, our second equipment on this list with the Masterwork of Ingenuity. Enters as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield. Doubling up cards in Commander is generally pretty good, so I think that's fine. Fighter class is another way to tutor up an equipment, so that's great. Equip abilities costing 2 less is fine. And whenever a creature you control attacks, up to 1 target creature is forced to block it. So that's a good way of actually, like, because our Captain America First Avenger should always be pretty big and beefy. Just a good way of basically forcing blocks that are disadvantageous, shall we say. So, Fighter class, how expensive are you? Some of the classes can get expensive, but Fighter class remains budget. Armored Sky Hunters. Armored Sky Hunter is a 4-cost 3/3 flyer. Whenever they attack, we look at the top 6. We could grab an aura or equipment from among them, put it onto the battlefield, and attach it to a creature we control. Yeah, no, Armored Sky Hunter feels like it's doing what we want, right? Let's do Armored Sky Hunter. Not Hunger, Hunter. I know we skip breakfast, but let's not be fat about it. Halvar, God of Battle. So, creatures we control that are equipped or enchanted get double strike. We get to attach a single thing, or he could come in as an equipment himself, giving the creature vigilance. And should the equipped creature die, it comes back to hand, and I think that's pretty good. So, Halvar, God of Battle, how expensive are you? 1041. Nah. You know, I gave the 20-cent buffer earlier, and, you know, I feel like that's as much as we're able to do here. So I'm going to say no. Forge anew. Grabs an equipment from our grave back to the battlefield. On our turn, we could equip things at instant speed, and we could equip things for 0 the first time we go to equip. So I think for the second 2 effects, that's pretty good. The first effect might not ever come into... Not Forge anew, Forge anew. 281, that's fine. Right, I really like the second 2 effects. The first effect is, like, really dependent on someone else blowing up our equipment. Akiri, Fearless Voyager, is more card draw. And you could really, honestly, almost never have enough card draw in a deck, in my opinion. So Akiri, Fearless Voyager, is going to give us card draw. We can unattach an equipment from any of our creatures to make them indestructible for the turn. Akiri, Fearless Voyager seems like a no-brainer. And is nice and cheap. We're up to 20 cards so far. We're looking to hit about 65 before we start touching on lands. Brass Squire. Brass Squire, I was looking at him while I was going over Akiri, and I just don't know that I care, right? It attaches things for free. By free, I mean by tapping them down. But I think we have a lot of things already that are attaching things, right? Cap has it built into him. What else did it? We had a couple other things that said it. Mantle's going to do it. Sigarda's Aid, which we already have, is going to do it. Pure Steel is going to do it. Hammer of Nizan, which is a little above budget, is already doing it. You know, we have reduced cost for... This is just casting. But either way, I don't think we need the Brass Squire. You know, if you disagree, let me know. We'll go ahead and have a discussion. You know, consider putting him in. But for now, I'm going to say no, we're good. Godo, Bandit, Warlord is a 6-cost 3/3. When they enter, we get to search for an equipment and put onto the battlefield. So another way to tutor, and this tutor is actually going straight to the battlefield, which is pretty strong. Whenever they attack for the first time, we're going to untap it, and all samurai we control. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. So I know that Godo has an infinite combo. I don't know if both pieces are budget. Let's take a look. So we have Godo, Bandit, Warlord, super cheap, and then he combos with Helm of the Host, which is also cheap enough. So we're going to just add both right away. I love infinite combat triggers. It's just a good way of basically forcing a win. And at the start of each of those combats, right, we can move equipment over to Cap for free, which is also nice. Brunor Battle Hammers. This is a 5/3 for 4. Equipped creatures we control get +2/+0 for every equipment attached to them, which is pretty nice. And again, first equipment each turn is free. So, Brunor, I'm here for you. Brunor. Battle Hammer. There we go. X-Guard Armory. So this is interesting, right? We have a land. It's going to enter tapped. Taps for white. We can pay 4 mana and tap it, so effectively 5 mana. To sacrifice it to grab an ore or equipment. Goes to hand. It's a bit of slow mana, but the fact that we could sacrifice it if we don't have anything else to do to go grab another good piece of equipment feels pretty strong here. So, X-Guard Armory. There's apparently a whole slew of X-Guard stuff. We're not going to go looking into them yet, though. Stone Hewer Giant. 5-cost, Vigilant Dude. Tap him down. Search a library for an equipment, put it onto the battlefield, and attach it to a creature, then shuffle. That's stupid good. Stone Hewer. Are you expensive? Because I feel like you would be. Surprisingly cheap. Kind of here for it. Codsworth, Handy Helper. Commanders are going to have Ward 2, which we do like. Tap them down, getting 2 white mana, spending only to cast the auras or equipments. And then we can also tap them down to just cheat the cost here. So, Codsworth, if you're cheap enough, I think I do like you. And you are cheap enough, so we could have you in. Danitha, Benalia's Hope. 4/4 for 5 with First Strike, Vigilance, and Lifelink. When they enter, we get to cheat an equipment from grave or hand onto the battlefield attached to them. I don't think that's bad by any means, but I don't think that it's something that we need here, so I am going to kind of skip it. The Iron Crag. So this is a 2-cost legendary artifact, notably not an equipment, but that's okay. Whenever a legendary creature enters the battlefield under our control, we can attach it to it. And then it becomes an equipment. Okay. Good to know, good to know. If we do, it gains equip for 3. And the equipment creature gets +3/+3, but loses all other abilities. I'm gonna say no. I don't want to lose all other abilities. So we're going to say no to the Iron Crag. I think that it probably has places in some decks, but it's not going to be in this deck. Kellen the Fey-Blooded / Bright Birth Boon. So Kellen himself is a 2/2 double striker for 3. Other creatures we control get +1/+0 for each thing attached to him. Kind of interesting. And then obviously he has a way of searching another aura or equipment to hand. That feels fine for me. I will never say no to equipment. And he's cheap enough, so he could come join us. Aster, Bearer of Blades. This is a 4-cost 4/4. Whenever it enters the battlefield, we look at the top 7 of our library. We can reveal an equipment or vehicle. Put into our hand. Equipments we control have equip for just 1. So it's not bad, not bad. We're already equipping for free a lot of the time, though, so I don't know that I care that much. You know what I mean? So I'm going to say no to Aster. He's decent, but he's just not what I'm looking for. Benevolent Blessing. This is another aura. Comes in, chooses a color. The enchanted creature has protection from the color. This effect doesn't remove things that are already attached to it. Decent. Could effectively make him unblockable against very specific opponents in the match. What do you think? Benevolent Blessings. How are we feeling about that card for Cap? Because the protection from the color is pretty nice. I'm thinking yes. It's not an equipment, obviously, so it goes against a little bit of what the deck's doing. But I don't mind having a few auras. And it's 20 cents, so super budget for us. Love that. Wyleth, Soul of Steel. Whenever he attacks, we get to draw a card for each thing attached to it. We are playing a ton of equipments. And he's trampled natively. But I think I'm still going to pass on... What are we doing here? Come on, voice. I think I'm going to pass on him, though. We have a fair bit of card draw already that doesn't require things to be attached to not our commander. And our commander kind of is out here trying to be a Voltron boy. So, I'm going to skip it for now. Acclaimed Contender enters the battlefield if we control another knight... Which I don't think we will. Let me take a look at what we have so far in terms of creatures. We have 1 knight, 2 knights, 3 knights. Okay, we have more knights than I thought we would. You may reveal a knight or equipment or a legendary artifact from among them. This is out of the top 5. I think I'm still going to say no. That's right, Old World. Micmac. America. I'm thinking no, though, on this. Mainly because there's not always a guarantee that it's going to trigger, right? I think if Cap himself were a knight, which he's not, right? He's a human soldier hero. If he were a knight, I'd probably keep it. But because he's not, I'm going to say no to it. Brass Knuckles. This is a 4-cost... 4-cost equipment. I could speak, I assure you. I know what I'm doing. So kind of expensive. When we cast it, we get to copy it, creating a token copy. The equipped creature has double strike as long as it has at least 2 equipments on it, and it equips for 1. I think that's actually pretty decent for us. 1, I like double strike on Cap. At some point, I'd like to start seeing some things that are going to give him trample to really, take advantage of his large size. We haven't hit that yet, but we're gonna look into it at some point. And the fact that we could pay the 3 to throw it and deal 4 damage is pretty nice. So, Brass Knuckles, you have made the cut. And a 6 cents, what a bargain. Okay, another equipment right off the bat. We have the Bladehold War Whip. So this is a 3 cost. It has for Mirrodin, so it is going to create us a Rebel when it comes in, so a little bit of extra value there. Equipped abilities, you can activate. Other equipments cost 1 less. The equipped creature gains double strike. That equipped cost is high, but Cap is going to cheat at least 1 equipment cost per turn. So I think that we're not overly concerned about how expensive it is to equip a thing. So the double strike is actually what we care about. I think I will take the Bladehold War Whip. You okay, Stormy? Sneezing up a storm back there. You good? Okay, you seem good. Balan Wandering Knights, another knight. 4 mana, 3/3 first striker. It has double strike as long as it has 2 attached equipment, and we can attach all of our equipment to it. Again, we're playing a ton of equipments in this stack, but we really want to stack them all on top of Cap, so I am going to pass. Nahiri Forged in Fury. Affinity for equipment, so we could get them out pretty cheap. They are natively a 6 cost 5/4. Whenever an equipped creature we control attacks, we get to exile the top card of our library. We can play it this turn, and we get to cast equipment spells that are exiled that way for free. So pseudo card draw, decent body that we should be able to get out pretty cheap. I think that we could do that. So Nahiri, Forged in Fury. How expensive are you? Hiri, there we go. Forged in Fury is 281, so easy add. Forging the Tyrite Sword is going to create us treasure for the first 2 turns, and then we're going to search for Halvar, God of Battle, or any equipment card, and just put it into our hand. Yeah, Forging the Tyrite Sword feels good. Forging, not forging, the Tyrite Sword. 13 cents, easy add. What are we up to? We're up to 32. Everything in here so far that are artifacts are also equipment, but 7's obviously not plenty per se. We do have another 33 cards we're going to add though, so I don't feel the need to switch to looking for specifically, not artifacts, but specifically equipment quite yet. Golem Skin Gauntlets is beefy gauntlets that get you beefier for each thing attached to you. We already have a couple of those style of effects. I'm going to put it on the list and then move it to considering. Because I don't necessarily feel like it's made the cut for me. But who knows, right? We might change our mind about it later. So let's move you to considering. Inventory management is split second for each aura and equipment we control. We can attach it to a specific creature. I don't think we need this, personally, right? Everything is basically always going to be on Cap. So I am going to go ahead and skip. We have Togo, Goblin Weaponsmith. This is a 3-cost 2/2. Whenever a land enters, we get to create a rock. which we could pay 1 to sacrifice the rock, tapping the... we pay 1, tap and sacrifice the rock to deal 2 damage to any target, and equips for 1. I mean, it's not bad. I'm going to skip him for now. The equipped creature has pay 1. See, I need clarification. Am I tapping the rock or am I tapping the creature? Because it feels like I'm tapping the creature, and I don't want to tap cap down to deal damage. So I'm going to skip for now. Gem Cutter Buccaneer is a 4-cost 1/3, kind of bad stats. Whenever Gem Cutter Buccaneer or another pirate enters, we create a treasure. Treasures we control are equipment. I'm going to skip it. I don't think Gem Cutter is for me. I think he's for a pirate deck. Rune of Sustenance. The equipped... we get to enchant a permanent. We're going to draw a card. Passes out lifelink to either the permanent or the equipped creature if the permanent we've enchanted is an equipment. Lifelink is always good. And it's card draw. I'm going to put Rune of Sustenance into our considering as well. Let me run down here, throw you into considering, and keep looking. Magnetic Theft. Attach target equipment to target creature. Again, I don't think that's necessary. Right, we're already equipping for free. This just feels like kind of a waste of a card for this deck in particular. Unfinished Business. So return target creature from grave to battlefield, then return up to 2 ores or equipments from the grave and attach it to that creature. Unfinished Business is interesting, right? It's a bit of graveyard recursion. Again, this is gonna be a maybe for me. Unfinished Business, 20 cents. This is a sorcery, so it's up here. You get to be considered. Anchor to Reality is a 4-cost sorcery that requires us to sacrifice an artifact or creature, so I'm not loving it. We get to look for an equipment or vehicle, slam it onto the field. If it has mana value less than the sacrifice permanent, we would also get to scry 2. I kind of do like Anchor to Reality. Not Anchor to Reality. 11 cents. Easy add. And the reason I like it is because we do have a couple things that are going to let us get things back. And we're going to have some cheap equipments that we could sacrifice and get a better equipment. I'm not really concerned about that scry effect here. Who do we have next? We have Kemba, Ka, Regent. 3 cost 2/4. Upkeep creates us a token for each equipment on him. No. Probably cool to build around, but not for us. Armed and Armored. Vehicles you control become artifacts, artifact creatures. Nope. We can also choose a dwarf and like attach a bunch of stuff, but we're not doing dwarves, so we're saying we're good. Bladegraft Aspirant. So this is a 3-cost menace. Equipments cost 1 less to cast. Activated abilities equipments that target it specifically cost less. No. Relic Seeker has Renown 1. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, if it isn't renowned, it becomes renowned, which lets us then search. Again, I mean, it's not a bad effect, but it's just not what I'm looking for. We are getting towards the bottom of this first page, and it's showing, because it feels like we've had a steep fall off in terms of the value we're getting out of these kind of cards. Nahiri, Heir of the Ancients, 4-cost, 4 loyalty. Lets us create a core warrior for plus. Let's just look at the top 6 for a warrior or equipment to go to hand. And removes either creatures or planeswalkers based on equipments we have. I'm going to say no. Not for us. We're good here. Velduk, Keeper of the Flame. No. Right, this is the same as the cat that we just went over. Get out of here. Tiana, ship's caretaker, is interesting. If we were sacrificing Auras and equipments all the time, they might get to keep. They're not going to here. The Deadeye Quartermaster enters, looks for a vehicle or equipment, goes to hand. But you're also a 2/2 for 4, so I'm just going to say no. +3/+3 ward, equip 3, but it costs 1 less to activate for each other equipment we control. Plate armor is actually not bad. I like the ward aspect of it. Plate armor. Nahiri creates us a dude. We can attach. Grabs in equipment from hand or graveyard to battlefield. Creates an equipment artifact. No, I'm going to say no. Kemba Ka again. Still no. Champion of Flame is no. Spectral Steel, I'm saying no. Gold Warden's Gambit. No. Blacksmith's Talent. I kind of like Blacksmith's Talent. How expensive is it? I don't think Talent has 2 L's. It does not. There we go. And last of the first page, which is all I'm willing to look through, is Icing Death Frost Tyrant, which would create us a equipment when he dies, which lets us tap down things, which is interesting, but not... It's a little too much for me. I'm going to say no. Let's go back to the advanced search. We're going to maintain our restrictions here. We want equipment. And I want to see trample equipment. Sorted, as always, by the EDH rec. I think Shadow Spear is kind of expensive, so I don't think we're going to be able to keep it. Shadow Spear. Yeah, way too expensive. Sorry, Shadow Spear, you'd be great, but I can't do it. I think Loxodon Warhammer is kind of budget. Yeah, 38 cents, easy add. Lifelink Trample, we could throw it for 3 damage. I think it's pretty good. Reaver Cleaver creates us treasure, gives trample. Yeah, Reaver Cleaver is good. And is budget enough. Ember Cleave. Costs 1 less to cast for each attacking creature we control. Auto attaches. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, double strike, and trample. I'm pretty happy with Ember Cleave. Is Ember Cleave happy with me? It is. Sword of Vengeance. +2/0. First strike, vigilance, trample, haste. Sword of Vengeance is good with me. Oh, not swords. Single Sword of Vengeance. 36 cents, easy add. Cauldra complete. Yeah. 7, which we love, right? That's big damage for us. It's a living weapon, so it's going to create a germ and equip to it automatically. It's indestructible. +5/+5. First strike, trample, indestructible haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a creature, we get to exile that creature. So assuming this is budget, It's a very obvious ad. Caldra. And it is, and so we have it. Boop. Haunted Cloak. Vigilance, Trample, Haste. Easy to equip. I will take the Haunted Cloak. For 5 cents. Nice. Super budget. As always, if it feels like I'm kind of steamrolling ahead, you want to discuss things a bit more, just say so. I'm happy to make this more of a conversation. I want it to be a conversation. I want it to be guidance. On both sides, right? We're working together to build this deck. But I'm also pretty new to, doing the live stream. I'm very used to doing just these builds on my own, where I'm like, yeah, no, this makes sense, this makes sense, this makes sense. Let's just, keep throwing things in here. But Torolf, God of Fury, is a tramply boy on his own. He's a 5/4 for 4, which is already good stats in my opinion. Whenever a creature or a planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, he's going to deal damage equal to the excess to any other target other than that permanent. That's interesting. What are you as an equipment on the back? Up. Alright. Try this again. What are you on the back? There we go. 2 cost equipment. 1 in a red. Tap it, unattach it to deal 3 damage, and then return it back to hand. The equipped creature has +3/+0 as long as it's legendary. I'm going to say no to it, because the equipment itself doesn't pass out trample damage for our Captain America. But I think that, it's an interesting card. Tenza Godo's Maul. So this is a 3 cost, it gets +1/+1, as long as it's legendary, it gets an additional +2, and as long as it's red, it also gets trample. I think that's pretty decent. We do fit all of those categories, so Tenza Godo's Maul. 22 cents, easy ad. Vorax Battlehorns. So it gives Cap trample and makes it so he can only be blocked by 1 creature, which is pretty good. I think that's worth adding. Did I do it correctly? Is it 2? There we go. 69 cents. Easy peasy. Actually, how many cards are we up to? We're up to 43. So we still have about 22 more cards before I want to start working on more lands. We do already have 1 land in here, so we could argue 23. But either way, because what else do we want? We kind of want Vigilance. We want Death Touch. And First Strike. So let's actually take a pause for the cause. Do any of you pass out any of those effects? I don't think you do, but I just want to double check. No. Okay, that's fine. So what do we have here? We have Double Strike, Double Strike, Double Strike and Trample. This is just free equips. This is Trample and Vigilance as well as Haste. Helm of the Host is just good utility. First Strike, Trample, Haste, that's good. Trample, Trample, Trample and Vigilance. No real effects in terms of those. I mean, the protection from red and white is good, obviously, but no major effects. Comes in as a copy of something. Trample, lifelink, a little bit of ward. Trample and reduced number of creatures that can block. Let's get let's say 3 more trample effects. Then I want to look into getting some death touch effects, and then we'll kind of go from there. Dragon Throne of Tarkir, 4 cost, equipped creature, has Defender, and gains pay 2 and tap it. Other creatures you control gain trample and +X, where X is this creature's power. I think if we were going for like a go wide strat, Dragon Throne of Tarkir would be stupid hilarious, but I'm going to skip it for now. Oh, Naginata. So this is a 1 cost. It can only be attached to a creature with 3 power or greater. I mean, like, I think Cap starts out big enough, right? Yeah, because he starts out as a 4/4. What do you think? Easy enough to equip. Could be our turn 1 play. Passes out Trample. And gives them +3/+0. I think we could do that. Oh, Naginata. Super cheap. Keeping this deck budget like we like to. So like 2 more, and then we're going to move on to other effects. Hero's Heirloom is a 2 cost. Gives +2/+1. And because it's going to go on a Cap, it'll give him Trample and Haste. So, pretty good. Yeah, I'll take the Hero's Heirloom. 10 cents, nice and budget. Chariot of Victory. First Strike, which we like, as well as Trample and Haste. Seems good. And it's 45 cents. Let's go back. We're gonna switch Trample to Death Touch. So Basilisk Collar is obvious add. There we go. $1.61. I know how to spell words. Quite a Spike gives Death Touch, and whenever the equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, they're going to lose half rounded up. Mirror Shield gives the equipped creature hexproof, and whenever a creature with Death Touch blocks it, it just auto gets destroyed. I like the hexproof nature of that, so I will include it. What was that called? Mirror Shield. And while we're at it, we may as well do Swiftfoot Boots, Lightning Greaves, there we go. Gorgon's Head is nice and cheap, but what do the other ones do? How expensive is this Battle Ace? Nazgul Battle Ace is slightly too expensive. You know, like I said earlier, I gave the 20-cent leeway for the Hammer of Nazan, oddly enough, but I'm not going to give 50-cent leeway. It is good, though. Let's do... Yeah, we'll do the Gorgon's Head. We're up to 52, which is actually 51, because like I said earlier, we do already have a land here. Let's just take stock again real quick. Let me give myself a notepad And let's see if I can add it as a source real quick. Window capture, just say OK. And it does know that we want the notepad. So that works out. Let me move it up here. So let's start off with Death Touch, Trample, First Strike, Double Strike. Come on, you know how to spell. We're just going to do Vig for Vigilance. Lifelink, not that I care about lifelink as much, but it's important to note. Let's call it good there. Let me actually move this to here for myself. You can't see that I'm moving it, but that's okay. I want to bring YouTube back up for myself in case anyone comments. Can I actually move this to here so you could see whatever card I have highlighted. And we'll get rid of this once we've gone over what we have. So Death Touchers. So we have the Basilisk Collar, which is Death Touch and it's lifelink. The Bladehold War Whip offers Double Strike. Brass Knuckles is Double Strike. The Chariot is quite a few things. So it's First Strike, it's Trample. We didn't go over Haste, so we're actually going to add it real quick. Ember Cleave is Double Strike and Trample. The Gorgon's Head is just Death Touch. I say just, but Death Touch is good for us. The Hammer of Nazan is indestructible. And that's it. Yeah, we didn't do indestructible, but we will add it here. We're just going to do it as end. Haunted Cloak is Vigilance, Trample, and Haste. Helm of the Host is just utility for us. The Hero's Heirloom is Trample Haste. There's Haste. I was like, I know I have it in here somewhere. The Kadala is all kinds of things. Let's see. We have First Strike, Trample, Indestructible, and Haste. So that's First Strike, Trample, Indestructible, and Haste. So many keywords. Lightning Greaves is Haste and Shroud. So I'm going to put Shroud Hexproof as its own category. I could have done the same for First and Double Strike. But that's okay. We already have Hexproof? No. And none of these things gave Hexproof. Also true. Okay, cool. Loxodon is Trample and Lifelink. Masterworks is Utility. Mirror Shield is Hexproof. The Onaganada, I could speak, is just Trample. I say just, but Trample's actually really powerful for us. Plate Armor is offering up Ward and Power. I'm going to give Ward its own category. Quartus Spike is Death Touch. The shield is protection, which I don't have down there. I'm not going to add it as a category, though. Swiftfoot is haste and hexproof. Sword of Vengeance is vigilance, trample, haste, and first strike. We have a lot of trample in this deck. So much so that I could probably cut some out if I really, wanted to. This is big and tramply. Reaver Cleaver is just tramply. It also ramps us, but we're less concerned about that. This is power and ward. And the Vorak is trample. And also makes it harder for them to block in the first place. We actually have an overabundance of trample. We have a good bit of first and double strike. I'd like more vigilance. And maybe a bit more death touch. So let's go ahead and hide that. We're done with it for now. We might come back to it. Let me get... How many cards left do I have that I could add? I'm at 52. Let me get in my mana rocks real quick, because we actually haven't put in any yet, and we know we want some. In fact, let me hit the EDA track to look for, ideally, the signets and whatnot. We'll also touch on some of these other ones in a moment. I just really want... There we go, like the talismans. In fact, I could just type in talisman and it'll give me what I'm looking for. That's true. Yeah, let's just go back and type in talisman and signet, and we'll add a couple. Talisman. We'll do conviction, talisman of creativity, talisman of progress. Yeah, because they tap on their own for colors, which I like. I got the Soul Ring, I got the Arcane Signet. Let's do Sword of... Are any of them cheap enough? Forged Frontier looks like it's the only one that's under $10 for us. What does Sword of Forged Frontier do? Gets this protection from red and green. Exit the top 2, we could play those this turn. We could also play an extra land for the turn. I think that's good. I will include the Sword of Forge and Frontier. Let's go back. I think we... Well, what did we do? We added... I think we added another Death Touch before we jumped into that. Did we? We did not. I'm lying to myself. That's okay. Let's... Not actually a very big list. Multi-class, Baldric. Lifelink for a Cleric, Death Touch for a Rogue, Haste for Warrior, Flying for Wizard. I don't think we have nearly enough to justify going that route, so I'm going to say no. Eater of Virtue. Whenever the equipped creature dies, we exile it, and it's our commander, so they were going to go to the command zone anyway, so that's fine. As long as a card exiled with Eater of Virtue has flying, the equipped creature gets flying. So not really what we're doing here. Hidden Blade Could be another first strike thing, but we have enough of those. Hunter's Blowgun is okay. Gorgon Flail is, yeah, kind of blatantly worse. Death Touch and Lifelink, and it's big. And we're getting around the equipped sacrifice of creatures, so Dissection Tools is actually pretty good for us. Is it 2 S's? I think it is. Yeah. 23 cents, easy add. The Hedron Blade only gives Death Touch if we're being blocked by colorless, which we're not going to be. We're going to add 7 more cards. Let's go through the EDH rec options real quick and choose some of our favorites. And then we'll tackle the lands, do some gold fishing to make sure the deck works as intended, and kind of just go from there. So Double Strike Trample is good. The fact that we could have it out on the field from the start is great. But we already have a lot of this effect. I think we'll still give it to ourselves. Excalibur Sword of Eden would be so stupid good in this deck. It is unfortunately $18, which is, way above our budget, so we can't really keep it. Iron Man would also be interesting in the deck, especially since we're running the Mantle of the Ancients. But we're going to have to say no. Colossal Hammer is a big buff, but I just don't know. We will end up having at least a Plains, a Mountain, Island in the deck, as well as a Command Tower, so I have no issues with adding them in now. The Argentum Armor is nice and cheap for us. Gives a big buff, and when we attack, lets us destroy things. So I'm pretty okay with having it on in the deck. Delco's Crafter of Wonder would give our commander flying. Also makes it so we could activate the abilities of equipments a little cheaper. So I'm pretty okay with that there. You reduce the cost of things, but I don't think we need you. Stoneform Mystic, we went over you earlier, and although we love you, we just can't keep you. Mjolnir, Storm, Hammer. Lets us stun things. And deals big damage. Yeah, we'll take that. We're going to take the swords to Plowshares because we actually didn't put any, regular removal in this deck, and although Cap can do some removal things, it's not all the removal things. Feast and Famine, I would love you. You are over $10, so we're not going to put you in for our budget build. We touched on inventory management, so we're just going to skip it. Path can go in. I kind of like this staff. We'll include the Exotic Orchard. Sword of the Animist is good ramp for us. Training Grounds is basically a must include, because it'll make it so that us activating our throw mechanic only costs 1. Too expensive. Too expensive. I don't know why I'm getting a little congested right now. It's annoying, but that's okay. Let's just add in our cheap enough lands, any land under $10 that gives us multiple colors is going to be an auto include for us. Training Center, come on in. I will include the Boros Charm just for a little bit of extra protection. Inventor's Fair is actually pretty nice. It doesn't give us colors, but that's okay. Come on in. 8 cents over. I'm going to let it slide. What is this equipment? Key to the Vault is actually kind of stupid good. The Adarkar Wastes. Shivan Reef. Scouting Turn is way too expensive. Teferi's Protection is way too expensive. Blasphemous Act I will include, even though we haven't touched it yet. The gaining of Double Strike is interesting, but I think we have enough stuff. Yep, you could join us. Single combat is actually really good for us. Flying War, we've already touched on. I'm gonna say no to this like Boros Signet and other things like it. Whirlwind of Thoughts is interesting, but I think I'm gonna say no. We are just really looking for, I think, lands at this point that are under $10 that are gonna help us color fix. I'm going to take the Reliquary Tower just because I like having Reliquary Tower in decks. So good, too expensive. Fabricate would be interesting, right? It's another way to tutor up equipments from the deck for us. But we actually have quite a few ways of doing it already, so I am going to say no. Buried Ruin can join us. Yeah, Archway of Innovation could be in this deck. Honestly, I kind of want to include Brotherhood Regalia as like an unblockable thing. I considered putting in quite a few things that gave us unblockability and kind of shied away from it, but we're probably going to end up having to trim things here in a little bit anyways. Well, we actually backed out at exactly 100. How many lands do we have? The answer is not enough. We're like 7 shy. So now it becomes an issue of having to add in 7 lands and make some cuts. I think I am going to lose the Thieving Skydiver. What about everything else? That's card draw, which I think is too good. I'm gonna... no, I'm gonna leave him here, because if Cap gets destroyed and we have to recast him, I want to be able to reattach everything pretty much immediately. This isn't bad by any means. And it cheats it onto the battlefield, and I'm going to keep that. This is a big buff and a way to cheat costs. This gives our commander ward. And it's a mana rock for our equipment. How expensive is our equipment overall, though? Seems moderately low until we hit a couple of these big ones. Let me whip up a calculator and actually just get an average real quick. So we only care about the equipment. So that's 6, that's 1, that's 3, that's 4. It's 2. 3. Chariot's another one. Dissection tools, the Ember Cleave. And this is obviously saying no cost reduction is being applied to it. Bear with me for a moment. That's another 3. That's another 2. Another 3. Another 2. Another 2. And then we obviously just divide that by the number that we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 34. Not times. Come on now. 103 divided by 34. Listen, calculator, you're pissing me off. 103. And it's like, I'm not doing anything. I'm not even going to listen to your numbers now. 34. Thank you. So about 3. That would let me get out 1 equipment a turn for 1. You could stay. You could stay. Godo's an infinite combo, so I don't want to lose him. You let me tutor, and other creatures get big based on the things that are attached to you, but we're really here for that tutor effect. You're effectively pseudo card draw. You're free equips. You're card draw. You are repeatable tutors, so I don't want to lose any of you. I think I'd be willing to lose Anchor to Reality to an extent, because I have other tutors and I have a lot of card draw, and this makes me lose one of my pieces. Let's move it to Considering. Blasphemous Act and Single Combat are my 2 board wipes for the deck. Path and Swords are my big pieces of single target removal, kind of relying on Cap for repeated removal of annoying sources, especially once he has Death Touch. So I think we're going to have to lose 5 things between our artifacts and enchantments. I kind of don't want to lose my artifacts, because most of them are equipment. So let me take a look at the enchantments and see what we could cut. So right off the bat, America's Aid, In the Trenches, and Training Grounds are not going anywhere. Mantle of the Ancients feels strong. I don't want to cut it. Benevolent Blessing, I feel like I can lose and it not be a huge deal. Blacksmith's Talent creates an equipment that doesn't have a mana value, so we can't throw it. It does let us equip a thing, and during our turn, our equipped creatures have double strike, which is decent, but based off of our chart from earlier, which I'm not going to pull back up on stream, but I will pull back up for myself as a reference. We have a couple other sources of double strike, so I don't know that I care. I think I'm going to lose the Blacksmith's Talent. Fighter class is a tutor, reduces the cost of equipped, and forces block. But I don't know. I'm going to leave it for now. Forging the Tyrite is another tutor that creates us treasures initially, but I think I'd rather just have drawn into an equipment. I'm going to remove it. In the Trenches, Mantle of the Ancients, and Training Grounds, like we already said, is just staying. They're not going anywhere. So I would like to lose 2 things from here. The alternative is that, obviously, we just play with fewer lands, but that feels risky even with our mana rocks. You know what I mean? So, what do we cut? And the answer seems to be overwhelmingly based on the effects we have. Things that pass out just trample. If you're only passing out trample, we have so many other effects that replace you, and that's not good enough, right? So does anything only pass out trample? We're looking for only trample by itself. Hero's Heirloom is the closest so far. It does also offer up haste and a little bit of power. The power I'm less concerned about. Hero's Heirloom, I'm going to move you to considering you might come back. Honestly, Masterwork of Ingenuity, I think I could cut, and I wouldn't be terribly upset about it. There aren't many things that I feel I need to have a second copy of in the deck. So I think I am going to lose the Masterwork. This is +3/+0 trample. So I'm willing to lose that. This gives ward. The Quietest Spike is too good. Sword of War and Peace comes with the deck. Too much stuff. Honestly, we are low enough. In fact, we have one extra. And I think I put back... Do I put something back, or do I just cut my losses? I think I cut my losses, and I just let myself have an extra land. So what's my color breakdown? Let me collapse this. Predominantly white in terms of color sources. Smallest is blue by far, but we need access to blue to cast Captain, so we can't, not have any. And our mana sources so far are actually pretty good in terms of production. They're pretty evenly split aside from red sources. Let me go back into EDH Rec to see if it gave us some new cheap lands that we could add in that ideally are going to give us some red and are under $10. So we are going to be going through here kind of quickly. Just because we're not going to see a ton of new stuff anyways. Urza Saga would be great. Perilous Landscape, obvious add. Temple of Triumph we could put in. Path of Ancestry should have been in from the start. Monumental Henge enters tapped. We can look at the top 5, reveal a sword card from among them, put it in our hand, rest on the bottom. Yeah. I don't know that we're going to use that all the time, but I'm pretty happy with it. Epiphany. Let's do... Spire of Industry makes sense in my mind. Oh, this Tundra is super budget. No. Fabled Passage is surprisingly budget, and we'll take it. Should we take Fabled Passage, actually? Because we actually don't have that many basics. Which may or may not be an issue. Can I go back to look at the list? Does anything care about me having these basic types on like an ongoing basis? You are both types, which is nice. You do, but only to get the blue. You're always good for white. Flooded Strain is like 8 cents over. I'm going to say it's okay though. Um, you care about 2 more basics, but only whenever you first come in. I don't know that I actually want this landscape all that much right now. Because it has to grab specifically a basic. Let me cut the landscape. And what did you want? Specifically a plains. How many plains do I have in this deck? 1 from the Hallowed Fountain. One from a plains, 1 from a prairie stream. Okay, let me... How many sources are doing red? Fair bit. We're good on blue. Let me do... I know white's already kind of dominating. So let me do 2 red and a single white. So let me do 2 more mountains, bringing this up to 3. Is my numlock off? What are we doing? 3. And an additional plains, bringing this up to 2. Cool, cool, cool. Let's go ahead and do some play testing with this deck to make sure that it's working properly. So, right off the bat, can't keep this hand. We do have some turn 1 play by getting out the Gorgon's Head, but 1 land in this deck obviously isn't going to cut it. It won't cut it for most decks. Let's hit Restart. Followed by a no land hand. Followed by a 3 land hand. But we would have to bottom something off of this. And I think I bottom the Regalia. Do you? I think I do. So let's say move to bottom of library. We'll draw for turn. I don't know that the order matters a ton here. We'll start off with the plains, though, just to get us going. We'll do the Exotic Orchard into the Arcane Signet. Go to our next turn, where we can play the Sundown Pass. It'll come in untapped for us. We'll cast our Commander Cap. We actually don't have any equipment we can play right away, unfortunately. If we had 1 more mana, we could get out the Mirror Shield and have it auto-equip to Cap at the start of combat. But that's okay. Didn't draw into more land, but which of these do we want to do? And I think the Hammer of Nazan makes the most sense, right? We play it, it auto-equips anyways from its own effect. Now we have an indestructible Cap. He's only a 6/4, but 6/4 on turn 4 feels good in my mind. Archway will enter tapped, but we can still do a Reaver Cleaver. It'll auto-equip. We'll indestructibly swing, deal a bunch of damage, gain a bunch of treasure. And then we can start getting out this and start doing a bunch of card draw stuff. So, even having had the mulligan down for this first attempt, I think that's pretty decent. Let's start a new game. Right, so we have 1 land and 2 mana rocks. I would love to keep this, right? Let me risk it for that biscuit. It's a bad idea to do so. Let's argue that we did because we're dumb. Draw a card. We were never punished. We always had this Temple of Triumph. We'll play it. Do a little scry action. This might seem foolish, but I think I am going to bottom this land because the only equipment we have is the Vorak Battle Horns, which is good, but not great. We'll go to the next turn, play the command tower into any of our talismans. I don't think it matters which, but I will choose the progress, so I could pay 1 life, effectively, to get the white, to get out the Captain America's aid. Turn 3, we didn't draw another land either. Kind of regretting having thrown away that, that mountain when we scryed off Temple. But we can get out Captain America. It will cost us a life, which is fine. Is that the right call? Do we play Captain America here? Actually, I think we don't. Let me put him back in the command zone for a moment. I think what we do is play a talisman into another talisman. We didn't lose any life for this. We just ramped hard. That way on our next turn, we can play Cap for 3, have 2 left over, which we use to play the Swiftfoot Boots. He gets auto-equipped on turn 4. He's hexproof, 4/4. I'm okay with this. And yeah, cool. We also could have held this up, right, if we weren't going to attack with him this turn. Either way is fine. Going into the next turn, we actually get Godo. Can we afford Godo? We are 1 shy of being able to afford Godo. Having fucking scryed that mountain to the bottom is biting us in the ass so goddamn hard. But we can cast this for 3, cast this for 2. It'll auto-equip onto Cap, because he's hexproof, not Shroud. And now he can't be blocked, so we can start getting in for damage. He's also flying off of Daukus, which is cool. I would really like a land. Thank you. Flooded Farm. Cast Godo, which is going to get us onto the battlefield. So obviously we grab Helm of the Host. When Helm of the Host enters, we get to attach it to a creature. We obviously attach it to Godo, go infinite and win. I think we are going to go ahead and call it here. I think the deck works well enough. We could do a third playtest, but I think both show that the deck kind of works as is. On Friday, I will have a deck tech video, which is much more condensed. I think the Black Panther one that went up this past Friday, which you should go check out, was about like the 17-18 minute mark. But thanks for hanging out with me. If you enjoyed hanging out and you want to do it again, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe, do all the doobly-doos. You know, boost the algorithm in my favor. But until next time, I'm Mechanized Minion, aka the Energy King, wishing you good luck with your builds.